Queen of the Ring begins by showing the atmosphere before the fashion show, where a male manager is seen selecting 4 girls who will be in charge of welcoming invited guests. The man seemed satisfied when he selected the first 3 girls who really fit the criteria he wanted. However, when selecting the last girl named Mo Non-hee, the man even felt annoyed that Non-hee did not meet the criteria at all and still forced herself to apply for the job. When the male manager was about to tell Non-hee to leave, one of the manager's subordinates suddenly told him that they were short on staff backstage. Without thinking, the manager immediately asked Non-hee to do backstage work. Even though it's not according to her wishes, Non-hee is forced to do physical work such as nailing plywood, which will be used as the stage background. Meanwhile, on the other hand, a young man named Park Se-gun attended a fashion show with his friend. Se-gun and his friends seemed enthusiastic to watch the female models walk the catwalk gracefully. Se-gun, who seems interested in one of the models at the fashion show, then runs to meet her. At the same time, Non-hee looks annoyed that she has to do physical work backstage, which is very tiring, even though she had applied for a job as a receptionist who only needed to stand up and greet the invited guests with a friendly smile. While Non-hee was watching the fashion show from backstage, she suddenly heard the sound of something snapping and realized that it was coming from the stage backdrop that was about to collapse. Non-hee tried her best to hold the plank with her back as she called for help. Not long after, Se-gun, who happened to be nearby, came to help Non-hee hold the plank about the collapse. Since the plank was too heavy for the two of them to hold, Se-gun then asked Non-hee to get out of there on his cue so they wouldn't be crushed by the stage background board. Although Non-hee was slightly scratched in the incident, she seemed relieved that no one was hurt. Non-hee then asks Se-gun why he is helping her. Se-gun tells her that he helped her because he didn't want the beautiful models to get hurt from being crushed by the heavy stage backdrop. Hearing Se-gun's words, Non-hee then felt annoyed and sad at the same time, especially when he sees Se-gun approaching a beautiful model and seems familiar with the woman. With tears in her eyes, Non-hee questions the world around her, which is full of beautiful women, but why only she is ugly? The scene then switches to the past, where Non-hee first meets Se-gun, who will be a painting model in a painting class she attends on campus. Non-hee turns out to have an extraordinary artistic talent and can paint Se-gun so well that it earns his praise. Because of that, Non-hee fell in love with Se-gun. The scene then turns to the present. Non-hee is annoyed at Se-gun for only caring about beautiful women, then tries to tear the painting she made. But Non-hee can't afford to spoil her own handiwork and then blames her mother because she was born like her ugly mother, unlike her father, who had a pretty face. Elsewhere, Se-gun is seen working on a fashion design where his friend, a young man named Duk-chan, asks him why he rejects a girl's declaration of love when she is very beautiful. Se-gun reasons that all women are beautiful, but he thinks their beauty will fade over time and he will get bored of them instead. Even though Duk-chan doesn't really understand what Se-gun's words mean, he chooses not to make any further fuss and asks about the clothes Se-gun will design in a fashion competition. Meanwhile, Non-hee is invited by her mother somewhere so they can be alone because her mother will reveal a very important secret about their family. Her mother then shows her a photo album containing past wedding photos of their ancestors. Non-hee then realizes that all the photos have something in common. All the women in their family have ugly faces, while the grooms are very handsome. Her mother revealed that their ancestors captivated the hearts of handsome men with a magic ring. Any woman who wears the ring will look beautiful and captivate the heart of the man she loves. At first, Non-hee didn't believe her mother's words about a magic ring that could change her face to be beautiful in the eyes of the man she loved. But out of curiosity, she finally decided to prove the ring's magic. Her mother then gave the ring to Non-hee, but told her to return it immediately before 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because her mother still needed the ring to win her father's heart. The next day, Non-hee ventures out to ask Se-gun for a drink. But Se-gun then refuses the invitation because he doesn't drink with just anyone. Hearing this, Non-hee then persuades Se-gun by saying that there is a beautiful woman who wants to meet him there. Se-gun, who seems interested in meeting the beautiful woman, finally changes his mind and agrees to go out for drinks with Non-hee. Arriving at the restaurant, Se-gun and Non-hee engage in a conversation about Se-gun, who likes beautiful women, and Non-hee, who has an ugly face. Non-hee then reveals to Se-gun that being a bad person is always criticized by many people, and she is very frustrated by that. Non-hee then tells Se-gun that from now on, she will disappear from Se-gun's sight, and as a last request, she wants Se-gun to put a ring on her ring finger. Without thinking, Se-gun then complied with Non-hee's request. But then, Se-gun feels the time around him has stopped and he feels very dizzy. After that, he sees a beautiful girl sitting in front of him, but he immediately collapses unconscious before seeing the beautiful girl more clearly. The next day, Segun still doesn't remember clearly what happened yesterday, including the beautiful girl sitting across from him. However, when he sees Non-hee, he doesn't even recognize her as the ugly Non-hee. Because in his eyes right now, she is a very beautiful girl. Seeing a beautiful girl nearby, Segun immediately approaches her and invites her to get acquainted. But Non-hee, who was too nervous about being close to Segun, didn't say anything. Segun looks at the name tag attached to the drafting tube she's carrying and looks surprised that he actually recognizes Mo Non-hee's name. However, Segun is surprised that Non-hee acts as if he doesn't know him. After that, Non-hee met her best friend, a man named Tae-yoon, who told her that their best friend since childhood was going to Paris to continue their education. Non-hee and Tae-yoon then engage in conversations that are occasionally interspersed with jokes. Unbeknownst to both of them, Segun turns out to be watching the two from a distance. At the same time, a girl named Anhwa comes to Segun to ask something. Knowing that Anhwa is a close friend of Non-hee, Segun then asks her for Non-hee's phone number. Shortly afterwards, Segun goes to Tae-yoon and asks him to stay away from Non-hee, saying that he is interested in Non-hee and wants to date her. Tae-yoon looks surprised to hear Segun's words and has no idea that a handsome man like him is attracted to the ugly-faced Non-hee. Tae-yoon even thinks Segun has bad intentions toward Non-hee and will only play with her feelings. Segun then meets Non-hee and asks her out on a date. Non-hee's friends also seem very surprised when they discover that a handsome and popular man like Segun pays attention to Non-hee. Segun and Non-hee then go on a date where Segun buys a yellow dress for Non-hee and takes her to a restaurant where they have drinks together. In the middle of their conversation, Segun asks about the whereabouts of a girl who is good at drawing in Non-hee's class, which girl is actually the Non-hee who once painted his painting. A panicked Non-hee then tells Segun that the girl's name is Mi-jo. A few days later, Segun visits Non-hee's house and accidentally sees her real face, which he calls Mi-jo. While in Non-hee's room, Segun finds a familiar red journal because it turns out to be the one he saw when he met a beautiful girl at Namsan Tower. The next day, Segun asks Non-hee to come to his class, but as the beautiful Non-hee, because he will introduce her to his classmates. Unexpectedly, Segun is announcing to everyone that Non-hee will be the model for a fashion competition that will be held soon. Hearing this, Segun's classmates look very surprised that Segun chose an ugly girl as his model. Non-hee immediately refuses Segun's request to make her a model, realizing that she doesn't meet the standards of a fashion show model. When Non-hee was walking alone, she accidentally met the real Mi-jo, her childhood friend. Mi-jo, who had just arrived from Paris, came there to meet Non-hee and asked for the red journal that Non-hee had, because there was something important hidden inside the book. The scene then switches to the past, exactly 6 months earlier when Mi-jo accidentally met Segun at Namsan Tower. The two seem to be attracted to each other, so Segun then gives Mi-jo his phone number and slips it in the red journal. After the meeting, Segun considers Mi-jo as his ideal type, and in his eyes, the beautiful Non-hee is the real Mi-jo. That's why Segun sees two beautiful girls whose faces are very similar, which are actually the real Mi-jo and Non-hee, who is wearing a magic ring to captivate Segun's heart as his ideal type. Segun thinks he's hallucinating and rubs his eyes. Afterwards, Segun asks Non-hee on a date and takes her home. Before leaving, Segun presents Non-hee with rose-scented perfume, and she looks happy that he cares for her so much. When Non-hee wonders about the woman Segun met at Namsan Tower, she suddenly gets a message from Mi-jo asking her to come to meet her at a nightclub. Mi-jo turns out to just want to embarrass Non-hee in front of a lot of men. Mi-jo, who is jealous of Non-hee, who is smart in everything, tells Non-hee that she is very annoyed when her mother always compares her to Non-hee. Hearing this, Non-hee rushed out of there. But it's raining outside and she doesn't have an umbrella. Not long after, Segun comes there and invites her to take shelter. After that, Segun invites Non-hee to take a photo together. Non-hee panicked, fearing that her real face would be exposed in the photo. However, her mother says that as long as she wears the ring, her face will not change in Segun's eyes even in the photo. Unexpectedly, Segun apparently uploaded a photo of the two of them on social media, while writing a caption that he and Non-hee were officially dating. The whole campus is shocked by the news the next day, because they have no idea that Segun is dating Non-hee. Non-hee, who has just arrived at the campus, immediately becomes the subject of gossip because according to everyone, she doesn't deserve to be side by side with the handsome Segun. However, Anhwa, who is a close friend of Non-hee, is seen congratulating her because her best friend has won the heart of the man of her dreams. But not so with Tae-yoon, who thinks that their love relationship looks odd. Tae-yoon then asks Segun about what he saw in Non-hee, which made him fall in love. Without thinking, Segun says he fell in love with Non-hee because she is so beautiful. At first Taeyoon doesn't believe Saegun's words at all, but he chooses to ignore them and let the two of them have a romantic relationship. One day, Non-hee asks Saegun to paint her face while wearing the ring. And how surprised she is when she finds out that Saegun painted Mi-jo's face. Seeing this, Non-hee immediately leaves Saegun, feeling sad and disappointed after learning that Saegun's ideal woman is Mi-jo. And Mi-jo turns out to be the girl he met at Namsan Tower. Non-hee then tries to keep Saegun away from Mi-jo when they accidentally cross paths on campus. Realizing that she can no longer maintain her romance with Saegun, Non-hee tells Taeyoon that she will end her relationship with Saegun because his ideal type is Mi-jo. That night, Non-hee, who was alone with Saegun, asked why he was dating her. Knowing that Saegun was attracted to her only because of the mortal beauty he saw due to the magic ring's influence, Non-hee feels sad and disappointed. The two then got into an argument that caused them to accidentally fall into the swimming pool. Unexpectedly, the ring that Non-hee was wearing slipped from her hand and fell to the bottom of the pool. Not wanting Saegun to know her real face, Non-hee rushes out of the pool and hides. On the other hand, Saegun, who has come out of the pool, then looks for Non-hee's whereabouts. However, he instead runs into Taeyoon, who tells him to go home and rest. After that, Taeyoon goes to Non-hee, where she tells him everything that happened to her. Taeyoon, who seemed to sympathize with Non-hee, then helped her find her ring that had fallen at the bottom of the swimming pool. A few days later, Mi-jo runs into Saegun, who calls her Non-hee and immediately gets angry at her. Luckily, Non-hee got there in time and then took Mi-jo away from there. Non-hee then tells Mi-jo everything that happened and asks her to pretend to be herself as long as she hasn't found her family's magic ring. Mi-jo agrees to Non-hee's request as long as she doesn't mind if she falls in love with Saegun one day and will try to make him her real boyfriend. Long story short, Saegun and Mi-jo then spend time together and occasionally go on dates. However, Saegun immediately realizes that there are many oddities about Non-hee because his Non-hee is actually the real Mi-jo right now. Not long after, Taeyoon went to Non-hee to give her the ring he had found at the bottom of the swimming pool. Non-hee then thanks him for helping her, saying that she will wear the ring once again to reveal everything to Saegun and then disappears forever from Saegun's sight. When Saegun and Non-hee are shopping at a clothing store, they run into Mi-jo, who happens to be there too. Saegun immediately felt confused because he saw his Non-hee there were two people and now they were standing in front of him. Mi-jo then takes the opportunity to expose all of Non-hee's trickery in front of Saegun by removing her ring. An angry Saegun demands an explanation from Non-hee and she has no choice but to reveal everything and apologize for lying to him. Saegun, feeling very angry and disappointed, decides not to want to deal with Non-hee anymore and deletes her phone number from his cell phone contacts. The next day, Saegun and Non-hee were chosen to represent the campus and participate in a prestigious fashion show. However, they are required to bring their own models. Saegun then asks Mi-jo to be his model, while Non-hee tries to persuade Taeyoon to become her model. At the same time, Saegun gets news that his mother can't come to the event, which makes him very annoyed. Long story short, the participants were asked to do rehearsal a few hours before the fashion show started. When Mi-jo goes on stage, she looks so nervous when all eyes are on her that she finally collapses unconscious. Mi-jo, who turns out to have an anxiety disorder, asks Taeyoon to accompany her to the hospital. Having lost their model, Non-hee asks Saegun to be her model, replacing Taeyoon. So is Saegun, who wants Non-hee to be his model. Dressed in clothes designed by Non-hee, Saegun looks very attractive on stage and invites the admiration of everyone present. However, as soon as Non-hee goes on stage and becomes a model, Saegun finally realizes that he has fallen in love with her. Sometime later, Saegun meets Non-hee at her house after they haven't seen each other for quite a while. Saegun then asks Non-hee to throw away the magic ring while giving her a new ring and confessing his love for her. After officially dating Saegun, Non-hee says that she wants to wear the magic ring one more time before throwing it away because she wants to look beautiful in Saegun's eyes. However, now that Saegun loves Non-hee as she is, nothing has changed even though she is wearing the magic ring. After throwing away the ring, the two of them finally kissed. The moral that can be learned from this movie is to be yourself as you are, pretty or ugly, because someone who truly loves us will accept us as we are, regardless of our physical